This is a book review of Wealth Secrets of the 1% by Sam Wilke. I read that book over a previous week, and yeah, it's an okay book. It's not a how-to handbook on how to become one of the 1% wealthiest people in the world or anything like that, but it does talk about interesting things like monopolies, economies of scale. The author uses some interesting examples. Talks about business failure of a very large chain called City Group or City. It was basically an American chain that was dominant, and then it contracted and got taken over by competition. And then the first main chapter talks about the Roman Empire or Roman Republic, how the 1% got wealthy then. So it was basically through brute force, property, all sorts of different things. And then it talks about the robber barons, where monopoly was the main way that the robber barons got rich. So people like Cornelius Vanderbilt got into railroads, and one interesting way he had a monopoly is he had all the routes directly into New York City. He owned all the railway lines and train companies that went into there, so that pretty much made him a fortune. Then John D. Rockefeller was another one who monopolised his way, bought out other people, created a market for oil. And then, of course, Andrew Carnegie and John Pierpont Morgan. And then it goes into the dot-com people as well. So you got Bill Gates, who's likely suspect, Google, Amazon, stuff like that. And then of course also the third world. So basically one conclusion the author comes to is if you want to become mega rich, you're probably better to go to a third world country where there's little competition. So basically one thing he argues or puts across in the book is that if there's perfect competition, no one's going to make a profit. So it's going to be pure equilibrium of 0%. So the vultures of those who don't go bankrupt will swoop in and take over the others. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy he talks about. Yeah, it's an okay book. It was just kind of give it 3 out of 5 stars, or 3.5 to be generous, but it wasn't a mind-blowing book, but it was very interesting. There's quite a lot of books in the last decade or two of that kind of style of writing, so a little bit of academia in it, not too much, quite easy to read, it flows. Where this book was in the Wellington Library, similar books, and also behind there's a sociology section, and there's numerous books about leadership, dictators, stuff like that, about similar kind of content. So yeah, if you do have a chance to read it, I would recommend you read it, but it didn't illuminate me much except for the whole economies of scale. So if you can find a way to create a funnel and pour your money into it, or your resources into it, and then have a production line of money coming out the other end, in business or whatever, that's pretty much a good way to get rich. When you go up the levels, it gets harder, takes more unscrupulous means, and means you've got to be very ruthless. I haven't watched it yet, but there's a really good channel called London Real, so if you haven't seen that, check that channel out. Guy Bryan, who's an ex-financier, Wall Street guy living in London, and he's totally revitalised his life by providing interesting interviews, does DMT, all sorts of interesting stuff. But he was interviewing this interesting guy called Dan Pena, the $50 billion man who basically he's a ex-oil businessman from the States who lives in Scotland, and he claims to have mentored people like Donald Trump, all sorts of celebrities, different business people. But anyway, the basic gist of what I'm trying to say is ruthlessness. He points out that you got to be ruthless if you're really going for your mega bucks. So he explains that in one of his training seminars, he gets all the people to watch a movie. So they might watch a biography movie on Andrew Carnegie, and the next one's Rockefeller, and he was asked them each day, what was this person like? Oh, he's ruthless. So basically, you got to be ruthless to get to 1%. Also things like monopoly, competition, and that. It's very interesting. Yeah. So one interesting case study was this Indian oligarchical type family, which was in the petro kind of chemical synthetic industry, and because he had monopolies with the bureaucracy and that, he just became a multi billionaire. This guy. So yeah, it's interesting. He uses different examples. Yeah, it's not the best book review, but yeah, I read it and I found it pretty interesting. So it wasn't the best book I've ever read on business, but it was well worth a read. It was entertaining. If you are in business, you might glean something from it. What I pictured from it was in business, like digital marketing and that. Basically, you got to find a business model or methodology that works for you. Basically, one you can rinse and repeat and scale it up. So the internet's the wild west, or huge. So basically, your challenge is to scale that all the way up to the level you want to go to. So one thing I learnt in the past is keep it simple. So I don't want to do anything too complicated. But yeah, that's my book review. Hope you like it. Subscribe, like it, dislike it, whatever. Leave a comment if you want.